Hi everybody, how are you all? Guess where I am? You recognise this place? Or have you forgotten what it looks like? That's right, I'm in the church. And I don't know if you can pick up, but I can actually hear some of you outside just now. I've just seen you all in the park having loads of fun in the sun, which is fabulous to see. I'm just hoping it won't be long before we can all be having some fun in the sun together. So how are you all doing? Everybody okay? Morning folks, it's just gone 8 o'clock and here we are up at the top of Meeklum. It's a bit windy, so I hope you can hear me okay. Just trying to imagine Jesus' journeys at the moment. He's all over the place. This week we get him coming into Jerusalem for the Passover, and of course our story when he goes to the temple and doesn't find all this as it should be. Wonder if any of his journeys were half as beautiful as this one. So here we are, the top of Meeklum. It's a beautiful morning, a bit hazy. There's the mast over there. It's down there somewhere. Over there. A bit hazy. And Castle Hill. West of Kirk Valley. And up there is Timpun, where our journey takes us to next. Right, today we are going to have a go at the flip water bottle challenge. To do that you need to get a plastic bottle, fill it about a third full of water, and then we're going to have a little see which one of Katie or Ross can flip the bottle. You have to flip it up in the air so it twirls round and hopefully it lands on its bottom. Take a while. Yay! Well done, Ross! Oh, Katie, my loser. Now, I'll just give you a little bit of background here. Katie insisted that Ross took that other bottle because her one was better. And the only one they've both managed to find is the square bottle, just like that. Well done, Ross. I think Ross wins. Way! Right. I have here a jar, plastic lid, toilet roll holder, and an orange. I am going to make this orange go into that jug. Okay? Now, how do you think I'm going to get that in there? I think I'm going to need to move this. So, think, just do it a little bit, do you think? Do it quite gently. It's not going to work, is it? Okay. What if I do it really, really hard and just whack it? Do you think that'll work? Or do you think the orange might just go splat against the wall? I think that might happen. So I just need to get it just right. I just need to control it properly. Let's have a go. Not too soft, not too hard. It worked! Isn't that amazing? In today's story, we're going to learn about how Jesus loses his control a little bit. Doesn't sound like Jesus, does it? Let's find out all about it. I've brought you into the church today to tell you about this week's story. We're just going to have a little look around while I speak to you. Hang on. Now, there might be one or two things here that you're not used to seeing. Don't think church looked like this last time you were in. Look, there's red tape so you can't sit in all the seats. all looking a bit different, isn't it? And then there's signs to tell you where you can sit, signs to tell you where you can't sit. There's markings on the floor. It's all looking a bit different, isn't it? Oh, and you wouldn't have seen these either. Guess what else the church has got now, guys? Wi-Fi. Yeah, so all your phones and tablets and everything will all work when you're in the church now. Today's story is, we're getting quite close to Easter now when we talk about this, and Jesus has arrived for the Passover. And the first thing he wants to do when he gets here is go to temple. He wants to go to the temple to speak to God and to do some praying. But when he gets to the temple, it's a bit like us coming into church now. It all looks a bit different. But when he got here, it wasn't signage, and it wasn't big tellies, and it wasn't that the church was just made to keep everybody safe. When he got to the temple, God's church, when he got to the bit to hit that church, it was full to the brim with market stalls. There were men selling cattle and sheep and doves and others sitting at tables changing money. Jesus was absolutely furious. He was enraged. So he started getting hold of all the tables and tipping them over and flinging all the coins away and throwing everybody out. And he got a big whip and started chasing all the animals out of the temple. He was absolutely furious. Jesus was absolutely furious. There was cows running about. Can you imagine the cows running up and down the aisles here? There was sheep running about. There was doves flying about up in the roof. It was chaos. He flung money about everywhere. The tables were overturned. There was chairs and everything. How dare you turn my Father's house into this, into a marketplace? This is a place for prayer. Wow. Bit of a shock, that. We can't imagine gentle and meek Jesus losing his temper like that, can we? But he did. And he was really angry. And with good reason, probably. Can you imagine if you came in here and somebody had destroyed it and damaged it? People in authority were furious with Jesus. What gives you the right to do something like this? What authority do you have? He said, tear down this temple and I will rebuild it in 3 days. 3 days? Don't be so ridiculous. It took years to build this place. I will rebuild the church in 3 days. Now, at the time, that made no sense at all. But we all know a secret, don't we? We know what happened 3 days after Easter. And that's what Jesus was talking about, wasn't it? Rebuilding the church. He would die, and then he would rise again 3 days later. And so the church would be born. But they didn't know that at that time, did they? Nobody could understand what he meant. Could you imagine if you came in to church one day and this place all destroyed? All the pews had been pulled up and the beautiful stained glass windows had been smashed and the pulpit had been destroyed and the communion table. And all the pews had been pulled up and torn. Can you imagine what you would feel like? It would be horrible, wouldn't it? It'd be so sad. But if the building was destroyed, does that mean the church is gone? We'll have to have a think about that one. There we are. So we've just been Plum Hill. We've just come up there. Up to the top. So here we are, top of our journey today, up to the very top. banqueted very often. No, it's one of my favourite runs. Well, it's a bit of a walk run, this one. Jesus overturning the tables in the temple. It's quite a shocking act, isn't it? But it seems nothing compared to what he says next. The temple was believed to be a space where heaven touched earth. If you ask any Londonite looking at that hill over there, White Hill, that's exactly what it is. God's country, they call this place. But Jesus speaks of destroying it and rebuilding it in 3 days. However, as we know, Jesus isn't speaking about the physical temple, the physical church, but his body. Jesus signals that his death and his resurrection makes the whole world the temple of God. Last week we spoke about Fair Trade Fortnight, and this week we reach the end of it. A time for Christians and churches to remind ourselves of the people behind the products in our consumer-driven culture. This is that 2-week time of year to run into homes and churches, metaphorically of course, and shops overturning dinner tables, communion tables, display tables, as we get angry on behalf of those who too often go unnoticed and underpaid, those who are cheated by us, the consumer, with more than 7,000 churches in the UK signed up as fair trade churches. I've had to question my own actions as well. Do our actions live up to the labels that adorns our church notice boards? There's also a lot of speculation at the moment for you young folk about a second Black Panther movie. I for one hope there is. It was actually quite good. The initial movie was a massive box office hit and of course broke a lot of barriers, including having black actors in the leading roles. As you all know, very sadly, the leading actor sadly lost his battle against cancer last year. A gentle, unassuming gentleman who nobody had a negative thing to say about. He lived his life as a great example. Does that sound familiar? This offering from the Marvel Comics superhero cinematic genre has been heralded as going a bit deeper than its contemporaries. A film that challenges world wisdom by addressing table-turning themes such as third world poverty, social revolution, isolationist, to create a fairer world. Only a fool would leave such tables unturned. This is a film that sees action and fair rule walk hand in hand. World leaders, please take note. Quite rightly, probably, we do get angry sometimes when we see the world that God has made and the people who live in it, whatever country they live in, being treated really badly by their government, or going hungry, or going sick without any help at all. Sometimes it's through being angry that things get changed, that campaigns start, that people pull together to take action. Isn't it sad that people have to get angry for something to happen sometimes? Maybe there's something that makes you annoyed or mad or angry about something that's going on that shouldn't be. What can you do to make that better? What other emotions do we think Jesus was feeling? Did he feel weary, disappointed, sad, heartbroken? Take these things, marketplace, destroy, raise it up. All different emotions he went through. Imagine that your church meeting, your meeting place was about to be destroyed and you could only save 3 things from it. What 3 things would you save? Let's have a think about what it is being church. People thought the temple was needed to worship God, so sometimes we have a fixed idea of what's needed to be the church. What does church mean to you? Is it the building? Is it the bells? Is it singing songs and hymns? Is it the people? Is it the steeple? Is it praying in stained glass windows, the Bible, or is it Sunday mornings? What do we need to be church? What don't we need to be the church? Give it a wee think. We go to church to find Jesus there, as if we were hiding behind the altar, crouched down behind the communion table. We must laugh at our seeking. We who carry him within us, each of our hearts a tabernacle, as full of him as any saint. If we would only recognise our divine cargo. And oh, how I needed him this past Sunday. I walked down the hallway of my church and hoped to meet him. And I did. And Donna, who came round the corner and greeted me with her smile and a hug. And there he was again in Joe, who looked to tease and cause a laugh. I ventured further down the hall and found Rowan, just two, who cannot comprehend a world without mystery, without wonder to be explored and marvelled in. He was a good reminder where my mind should be. On Jesus, on giving and receiving, on being him. We don't have to wait for the opportunity, it's everywhere, in every time. Even when we're alone, but especially at church. We get to slip into him, to sit with him, watch him, the word, always speaking, always creating, always transforming, even in our down times. Just a little passage from Kelly Wren's. We're a privileged people. We are participants in this salvation history, partakers and participants. We get to help bring the kingdom to the world. We get to bring the word and exemplify it. It's a metaphor, yes, but metaphor is far from passive. God moves in metaphor. God fulfills metaphor. So yes, we must continue to watch for Jesus when we come to church. God laughs because we're awake and willing. There is no more powerful human being than he or she who seeks and takes hold of what is found. If we look for Jesus, we will find him. There's no mistake in that. The example is there. It's in our churches, it's in our pews, on the altars, in the hallways, because it's in you and me. And just now, when we can't be in church, when we have to go out to be church and take church to those outside our four walls, just remember that. The church is in you and it's in me. It's in all of us. Just remember that. You know, our question about the church brought you somewhere else. Do you recognise this place? Have you got it? It's the rugby club, isn't it? So, for a few weeks last year, that place, big lorry going by, there was our home. And then when it got really cold and Boris finally said so, that became our home, isn't it? That is our church at the moment, isn't it? Or it will be when we're allowed back anyway. So even though we couldn't go into that big building at the waterside, the church, we still had our church, didn't we? And I know you all realised it was church because you were all thinking it was hilarious when the pheasant came to church that day. You remember when it ran across the field and you all said, "There's a pheasant come to our church, Donna." Because you guys know that it doesn't matter where we are, does it? Church isn't a building. Church is wherever we are. Whether it's a beautiful building like we have, our fabulous rugby club, or when we're out picking snowdrops and out walking together. That's our church. couple of questions for you to go away with today. What are the things that hold us together as a nation and as a church? What are the things that help create our identity? Lord Jesus, you came among us, challenging our ways and our assumptions, our politics and the way we treat each other. Help us to hear your voice crying in our wilderness, to see your light shining in our darkness. Help us to become the people you made us to be, your body in the world, carrying both your wounds and your love. Bring us to the places where you need us to be, serving all of your children. Amen. Take care, everyone. Stay safe and well. I'll speak to you again next week. Bye.